Yo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. It was another episode of Smackdown that was much better than this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, which continues to be the case, but that also does not set the bar very high because Raw is a piece of trash. SmackDown, not so much, and even though it continues to do some of the same things and make some of the same mistakes week to week, we had some interesting things go on at the end of the show as the head of the table found himself being put through the table by a nemesis that I don't think many of us thought we were going to see before the end of the night. A little bit of a twist and turn at the end that made the show feel a lot better than it really was. But SmackDown continues to do some of the same old, and we are here to bring the hammer down on it like we do, like nobody else. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show SmackDown Review and Reaction Show. Let's do it. Boom.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
This show started off the way SmackDown usually starts off. Roman Reigns comes to the ring with Paul Heyman, and they got something to say. They want to pick on little old GM, who's not the GM, but is actually the GM, Mr. Adam Pearce. They want to poke fun at him for feigning an injury. Roman Reigns is like, I never faked an injury in my life, pretty much calling Adam Pearce a puss. By the time this segment was all said and done, Paul Heyman stepped up, and Paul Heyman promises to whoop your ass. He wanted to whoop your ass, Adam Pearce. He has Adam Pearce's ass in his sights as Paul Heyman, the executive assistant to the tribal chief, stepped up to the plate. He said, you can't disrespect my tribal chief like that. I'm Paul Heyman, and I'm gonna whoop your ass, Adam Pearce. And that's how we started the show, by booking Adam Pearce versus Paul Heyman in the main event. Now, I don't know if you guys knew, but I definitely knew this was not going to be the way the show was going to go off the air. I immediately assumed Roman Reigns was going to assist Paul Heyman on this evening, but later on in the night, Roman Reigns showed that he was pissed off at Paul Heyman. He's like, I don't appreciate you putting words in my mouth, so to speak. He was angry at Paul Heyman for making this happen, for overstepping his bounds, and he said he wasn't going to help Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman has to go out there and handle his business. And then they said Roman Reigns left the building. So that obviously means that Roman Reigns is going to stick around and help out Paul Heyman. But we'll get a little bit more into that later, as we have to go through the rest of SmackDown, which was not really as good as what they did tonight with Roman and Kevin Owens. This is the only reason to be watching the show. And while there was some very good wrestling still on the show, it was not nearly as good as last week's episode, and some of the reasons why include two things we definitely did not need on tonight's SmackDown, which is more Charlotte. We don't need more Charlotte Flair on the show. We need less. And for the second time this week, we had to see Char Robot on the show. Well, I guess the only good thing about that is at least we got to see Asuka, right? But let's save Asuka for just a second. The other thing we didn't need to see more of Billie Kay with the Riot Squad. Billie Kay would end up showing just how detrimental she is to the Riot Squad. She cost them the match, as the Riot Squad, who didn't get an entrance on this show, would go up against Charlotte Flair and Asuka for whatever reason. I guess they were trying to get a championship opportunity out of this matchup, because you know that's the only way to get a championship opportunity is to be the champion, not to actually build yourself up as a viable tag team in a non-existent division, because how could you possibly do that anyway? Meanwhile, behind the facade of this innocent-looking bookstore, Sami Zayn comes out and he's handcuffed himself to the barricade because he's having some sort of a protest. He does not like how he's been being treated in the Intercontinental Championship division. He was bitching and moaning about some of the referees and their decision making. And so Sami Zayn is protesting. He's got a sign that says "Justice for Sami" and "Sami was right" and all kinds of silly things. So Sami Zayn was standing there handcuffed to the barricade as Charlotte Flair and Asuka made their entrance, but there was no entrance for the Riot Squad, so I guess they're viewed as glorified jobbers as usual. So then we have Asuka in this match, and following Monday Night Raw's absolutely shit episode, and if you missed the review of that, it'll be linked in the annotations up above, because we brought the hammer down pretty hard on Raw this week as well. Asuka shows up. She had this match won for her team, but of course Charlotte had to blind tag and steal the glory, steal the pinfall, pinning Ruby Riott clean in the middle of the ring. Actually, Billie Kay caused a few distractions. She was the reason why the Riot Squad lost here. But you know, Asuka could have used the pin after being embarrassed in that ridiculous loss to Alexa Bliss, where she was walking around like a scared little pussycat. Remember when she was all scared of James Ellsworth when he was standing in the corner in the Asuka getup? That was Asuka last Monday night when Alexa Bliss showed up with some different makeup on her face and buns in her hair. Asuka was terrified of this new Alexa Bliss. She couldn't get a lick of offense in and was made to look foolish, non-threatening, and just unimportant. Next stop is going to be Alexa Bliss taking the title from Asuka, but here tonight would have been a great spot for them to showcase Asuka's toughness even just a little bit, allow her to get the pin, show the world that she's, a great pro wrestler, but no, we had to give that limelight to Vince's favorite golden blonde, Charlotte Flair, who doesn't need to be on 2 shows a week. I can barely get through her 1 show a week on Monday Night Raw, where you know she's going to be. She was one of the centerpieces of that show for 3 hours. I didn't need any additional time here. But I guess at the very least we could be grateful that there was no Lacey Evans, Ric Flair disgusting affair on this show. And the Riot Squad came to their senses and kicked Billie Kay to the curb. So hopefully we won't have to deal with that anymore. And the Riot Squad could maybe be taken seriously once again. That would be fantastic. You know what else is fantastic? Seeing Daniel Bryan on this show. Daniel Bryan came out. He wanted to hype up the Royal Rumble. And nobody can do a better job at hyping people up than Daniel Bryan. While we're talking about hyping people up, I want to just make mention that I don't appreciate the fucking fake crowd noise, okay? I really don't. It just makes me know in my heart that I will never ever be able to trust a WWE broadcast for the rest of my life. They are making these Thunderdome shows sound like the best SmackDown crowds of all time. And they're taking moments and chants from one section or one superstar and applying them to another. Like with Roman Reigns coming out and there was like a "you suck" chant being digitally thrown at him so the WWE can, push their narrative and make your brain think the way they want you to think. It doesn't work on me. I know it doesn't work on you because you're smart enough to be part of this channel. And you're not going to fool us with any of that. But that being said, Daniel Bryan came out to his yes chants in the whole 9 yards. He wanted to hype up the Royal Rumble, which was great. He mentioned also never winning the Royal Rumble, which I think is a great story to tell. And we're all pulling, I think most of us are pulling for Daniel Bryan to actually win the Royal Rumble this year to set him up with a championship match of his choosing. At this point, I don't care who he picks. Obvious pick would be Roman Reigns, but wherever he ended up would be fine with me. Just want to see Daniel Bryan get that accolade before he hangs up the boots for good and becomes part of WWE Creative. But he was interrupted by Cesaro, who did not come out with Shinsuke Nakamura, who, oddly enough, I did not see on the entirety of this show. If you spotted Shinsuke, that's hard to say. You try to say that 2 times fast without messing up. If you spotted Shinsuke on this episode of SmackDown, let me know where you seen him, because I certainly didn't see him, even though he's been on the edge of this push. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, they're going to push Nakamura, and he had a couple of great weeks, but now they're giving that little segment to Cesaro, because for the second week in a row, Cesaro got to have a match where he won, and in this case, it wasn't against Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan took exception to Cesaro coming out and interrupting, and he challenged Cesaro to a match, and Cesaro refused. He refused the match with Daniel Bryan, but then issues an open challenge, which is answered by Dolph Ziggler for some reason, and he wants to talk about how he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, and him and his dirty dog friend, Bobby Roode, who didn't have time to make it to the show tonight for some reason, and they found it more necessary to put Dolph Ziggler here instead of in some sort of a tag team situation. They had Cesaro versus Dolph Ziggler happen, which was okay, I guess, but in the one rare time that I would have accepted a rematch, Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro was so great, I wouldn't have minded if they did it again here tonight as a way to hype us up to the Royal Rumble. Then you could have had maybe Daniel and Cesaro be 1 and 2 and wrestle their way through midway into the Royal Rumble together before somebody throws one of the other ones out. Make this like a thing continuing into the Royal Rumble. It would have been good. But instead we got Dolph Ziggler. Quick win for Cesaro. Dolph Ziggler does what Dolph Ziggler does. He goes out there, he sells like a champ. He's excellent at selling. He tries to be Shawn Michaels when he's out there. I really feel like he's reminiscent of that. Just watching him flop around and the way he takes certain bumps made Cesaro look good. Daniel Bryan on commentary, he was impressed. And that was it. We move on. And where we move on is to a terrible little place that I have to bring. And I absolutely hate bringing the poop hammer down on anything that has to do with my boo Sasha Banks. But Sasha Banks made history of sorts tonight on this episode of SmackDown because she had the first intergender match on SmackDown in the history of SmackDown, or at least in this incarnation of SmackDown on Fox. And we had Sasha Banks versus R-False, the evil doppelganger twin brother of R-Truth, whose name is Reginald or Reggie or whatever you want to call him, the sommelier, the wine sommelier of Carmella. And the thing that I think annoys me about this is that Sasha Banks beat the snot out of R-False, and it was not great. It didn't look good to me. I thought this was a terrible way to highlight Sasha Banks. And Sasha wins, beats Carmella's little lackey, her R-Truth Part 2, and she still gets a championship opportunity. That just seems weird to me because Sasha's like, oh, I'll give you a shot at the title, but first I want to beat up your boy. But it should have been like, if I beat your boy, you can't get your shot at the title. Like, I don't know. It could have been better. I didn't really enjoy anything that had to do with this segment. It was kind of a joke. The sommelier thing was old after the first day we seen him. We don't need this pretend R-Truth to be with Carmella to sell this new gimmick that she's being, which is actually an old gimmick that just is boring and uninteresting to me. So after Sasha Banks takes care of Reggie, we go to the back where you just can't win with Roman Reigns. As we mentioned in the open, he's not happy with Paul Heyman for stepping out of line like he has been with Jey Uso in the past, even though he's trying to do the right thing by stepping up for the Chief. He's not happy with their decisions, tells Paul Heyman he's got to handle his business. So we all thought at this point Roman helping out will not be happening. Then we had the Intercontinental title match, Apollo Crudes versus Big E. This is coming off of 1 week of build, technically, because Apollo Crews had his shot at the Intercontinental Championship, lost that opportunity, and then won that opportunity back by winning one match last week And now here we are 7 days later, he's getting that shot at the championship. This did not last very long at all. While they were in the midst of a nice man meat on man meat match, Apollo Crews and Big E pretty much picking up where they left off last time we seen them. They had some pretty decent action, but it didn't take long for Sami Zayn to decide to stop his protest, unlock himself from the handcuffs that he brought himself to the ring, and insert himself into the decision of this matchup. So he goes into the ring, he kicks Apollo Crews dead in the face with a haluva kick, getting Big E disqualified. Apollo Crews gets the win via disqualification. Big E, of course, is still the Intercontinental Champion, and I think that they have not booked Big E very strongly up until this point. He's not gotten any real definitive wins as of late that have been impressive. You think once you become the champion, you would want to show why they are a champion by having them kick some people's ass. Defend the championship without question, while you build up this challenger simultaneously, instead of, stop and go with Apollo Crews. He's going to get another opportunity, apparently, because this match ended this way. Probably going to end up in a triple threat. Sami Zayn, Apollo Crews, Big E. I'm totally okay with that. That'll end up being a great match. But the lead up to it, a little bit shaky, if you ask me. Although Sami Zayn on television is very, very entertaining. He really is. He has a way of being just Weasley enough for you to want to choke him, and still at the same time go, damn, he's pretty funny and I like that guy. Something like Bobby the Brain Heenan used to be like back in the day. That's pretty high praise if I'm putting him in the same category as Bobby the Brain Heenan, but maybe that's another discussion for another day. We had Kevin Owens showing up here tonight via satellite or via video, whatever you want to call it. Kevin Owens was barred from SmackDown tonight. He was forbidden showing up by Roman Reigns. Now, for some reason I fell for that. The fact that they made mention of that, we all should have known he was going to show up at the end of the show, but I fell for it. I'm like, all right, Kevin Owens isn't going to be at the show tonight. Tonight he says he's going to settle things once and for all at the Royal Rumble in this last man standing match with Roman Reigns. He's doing it with his family on his back. He's fighting and he can't stop fighting because he's doing it for all of them. He has their memories tattooed on his fingers, went over the lineage of his father and his grandfather and how he wishes they were around to see him make it to the WWE, and he promises to be the last man standing and end the reign of the tribal chief. Very intense stuff, and I thought it was pretty good. And I thought that was going to be the last we seen of Kevin Owens, but that would not be the case. I wish we've seen the last of segments like this with the Street Profits, because they come out here and they're singing, "Are you ready?" to Sonya Deville, and I'm ready for them to take a little bit of a break. Because Montel and Dawkins coming in, yeah, we're a couple of losers, yeah, we want to get our tag team championship opportunity. And they go to ask this of Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville, who I guess really is the new executive assistant to the guy that's not the GM, but is the GM actually, but is not the GM, Adam Pearce. So they ask Sonya Deville for a title rematch, and she says that maybe it's time for other tag teams to have a shot. You should go home, you should rest up, they want you to be 100%, and in the meantime, we'll give other tag teams a shot. And I'm like, what tag teams? What other tag teams? What, Otis and Gable? They're busy being obstacles in an obstacle course right now. What do they got to do with a tag team division? Who else is there? Shinsuke and Cesaro, they're going their own separate ways. Where do you see other tag teams, Sonya Deville? The Dirty Dogs and the Street Profits are the only two left. Ridiculous other tag team. What other tag teams? Sonya Deville. Bayley and Bianca Belair, obstacle course challenge. This was actually better than I thought it was going to be. Last week I was skeptical because we've seen so many terrible obstacle courses in the WWE, but this was done pretty well, I thought. Bayley laid out the challenge. They had to flip a tire, they had to run some hurdles, they had to climb over some wooden planks, and then they would have to carry a WWE superstar over the finish line. Fastest time wins this encounter. So Bayley does this, and she does this with relative ease. Bayley was pretty impressive. She does all the obstacles. Chad Gable was her WWE superstar. She puts him on her shoulders and runs him across the finish line. Fantastic. Bianca Belair, it's her turn. She goes and burns through this obstacle course in a much faster time than Bayley did, but at the end, she goes to pick up Chad Gable, and he's like, no, you have to pick up this guy. And then out comes Mr. Ham Lover himself, Otis. And you would think this would be a big deal, but not to Bianca Belair because she's fucking phenomenal. And she picked up Otis on her back, fireman's carry style, and carried his big ham ass across the finish line, beating Bayley's time, making Bayley look stupid. But then Bayley picked up a basketball and beat up Bianca Belair. She smacked Bianca Belair with the basketball, jumped her after this whole thing from behind, and that would be the end of that. Bayley gets the one-up on Bianca. The only thing that's not really great about this is that right now it's not really leading to anything. Both of these girls are just going to be entered into the Royal Rumble. So similar to, like I said before, with possibly doing with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro, maybe you have Bianca and Bayley start off the Royal Rumble and go a nice amount through it together. And then maybe you have Bianca throw Bayley out halfway through as she goes on to maybe win the whole thing in the end. But I think in order to get the most out of what they're doing on TV right now, they have to continue this rivalry. There is no singles match planned immediately right now, and to do so at the same night of the Royal Rumble would be stupid when they're just going to be in the Royal Rumble together, and you could tell that story there. And they could do the thing where they just clean house. You can run through the first 5 useless contestants just by having them go in there and get eliminated by either Belair or Bayley. And I think that would be entertaining for a women's Royal Rumble. That's not going to be all that entertaining, really. Everybody's entered into it. It doesn't matter. We're going to see everybody. There's not going to be much surprises going on. Maybe a few NXT talents, or maybe a couple of returning legends again. But how many different names are there, really? If this doesn't go to Charlotte Flair, we're lucky. We're lucky if Charlotte doesn't become the 2-time champion. Maybe we'll see the return of the 2-time Rumble winner. Never mind 2-time champ. Maybe we'll see the return of a Ronda Rousey. That remains to be seen. That could be exciting. It could be a jump start in the women's division that has been dead since she's left. But speculation remains on the Women's Royal Rumble. I just think that would be a great story to tell in this match. And it would get both women over in the Royal Rumble, even if they were not the ones to end up winning in the end. We were all losers in the end, towards the end of this match, this night, because we had a match between Constable King Dickhead Baron Corbin and Dominic Mysterio. Dominic was in the back and he told Tiny Dad, "Listen, Tiny Dad, Senor Tiny Dad, please stay the hell out of my business. Stay the hell back here while I go out there and have my match with Baron Corbin." And I'm getting serious repeat vibes here. I feel like they just took everything that they did with Seth Rollins and said, well, Seth is gone. Let's just start this whole program from the beginning with Baron Corbin instead. And we're going to have this. There seems to maybe be some tension finally being built between Tiny Dad and the giant babyface son. But that, again, remains to be seen. Hopefully they go with WrestleMania around the corner. Wouldn't it be great at this point to finally go down a road that puts Dominic on his own 2 feet and maybe culminates in a match against his dad at WrestleMania? Maybe his father's last match. You could have it with Dominic, and then he wins and takes the mask or something like that and brings it to a whole new generation. That's a story you could start right now. Right now, by showing some more tension between these two guys. Maybe you have Dominic eliminate Ray from the Royal Rumble. That causes the tension that brings these two towards a match against each other, because I'm just so tired of seeing this lovey-dovey, I love you, son, I love you, dad. It's just enough. Enough is enough. The man had his eye nearly ripped out trying to defend you, and now you're just like, listen, dad, just get out of here, man. I got this. And then he goes out there and loses to Constable King Dickhead, all because he blocked the 619 and then hit the end of days. And then Michael Cole wants to make this smart-ass remark. Oh, well, maybe Dominic might want to start listening to his dad. Maybe he should. Maybe he should. And maybe that would be a great way to kickstart Dominic versus Ray for WrestleMania. Then we have Paul Heyman versus Adam Pearce. The main event that was not going to end up being the main event segment of the night. Paul Heyman comes out and gives Adam Pearce, whatever his name is, Naughty Dog, Sexy Dog, what the hell did they call him? Shorty Dog, Stick Dog, Stinky Dog, whatever the fuck his name was. I don't remember now. Rat Daddy, Scat Daddy, Doggy Daddy. Whatever the fuck, Scrap Daddy, that was it. Wow, I was way off. It took me a while to get there, but we got this. Scrap Daddy, Adam Pearce. Who gives a shit? Right, so Adam Pearce is waiting. Paul Heyman comes out. He gives Scrap Daddy a taste of his own medicine. Paul Heyman fakes an injury and says, you know the rules, cards subject to change. And out comes the big dog, Roman Reigns, to take on Adam Pearce. And this obviously was going to be a one-sided affair. Adam Pearce was beaten up by Roman Reigns. He was brought to the second tier of the Thunderdome, right where he threw Kevin Owens from just a couple of weeks ago, putting him out of action in a nice little, look back at that moment, nice little callback to that whole moment. But then before he was able to execute Adam Pearce's little death from that tier, a hooded figure would show up, and it would be Kevin Owens, and he would take control from there. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns would battle throughout the arena, end up back in and around ringside, but Kevin Owens had no fury tonight as he pop-up powerbombed the Tribal Chief right through the announce table outside, leaving him in a pile of rubble. It is not very often that we've seen Roman Reigns in such a vulnerable position. We have not seen anybody get the best of him in quite some time, and it definitely makes Kevin Owens look like a real viable threat. Even though he's already been beaten a couple of times by Roman Reigns, this time maybe it'll be different because Kevin Owens is looking as strong as ever, right? We all know for a fact Roman's not losing. But at least with them writing things this way and telling the story in this way, it makes you maybe question, well, maybe Kevin Owens has a chance. And that's all you need. It's all you need is to put that slight little bit of doubt so that when you're watching the match, you can believe Kevin Owens might pull this one off. And in a last man standing situation, that definitely could be the case. We all know better. They ain't taking that belt off of Roman Reigns before WrestleMania. But this last man standing match at the Royal Rumble is set up to be pretty damn interesting. And even though it's just more of the same, I'm looking forward to it. And I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well. We only have one more week as we get ready for the go-home shows for Monday Night Raw, the go-home show for SmackDown, as we head full steam ahead towards the 2021 Royal Rumble. I can't believe that we're at this time of year already. It's everybody's favorite time of the year. Everybody's favorite Royal Rumble pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble. And to this year, it actually, just as far as the Rumble matches go, I'm looking forward to them both, actually. They should be pretty good. I wish and hope to God that there will be fans. I know that everybody's saying that there won't be, and we're going to have this computer generated 3, 2, 1 countdown with the pop or the boos being played accordingly by the sound technicians in the back. And that's going to take away from the magic just a little bit, but I think the matches themselves are going to deliver much better than they have been in years past. And the rest of the card, as it shapes up, we're going to have Roman versus Kevin Owens, last man standing. That should be pretty decent. Anything else given, I guess, is just a bonus at this point, but hopefully it's not too much, because I don't want to be sitting there for 9 hours for a Royal Rumble pay-per-view full of half-important matches. But doesn't seem to be the direction we're going, but we still got time for them to make this even worse, because that's what the WWE does, and we will be here to point out everything wrong with the Royal Rumble and everything that they throw at us, just like we always are. Thank you all so very much for continuing to come out and support the channel. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball, the most important member of the team, as always. Each and every one of you sledgeheads that come out and watch and support these videos. Now's the time for you to do your part, and you can hit that like button if you haven't already. You had a good time here today. Show the world and me that you had a good time here tonight by hitting that thumbs up. Share this video with anybody you think will enjoy or might want to come and join our little club that we're growing here. And don't forget, if you're not already a member, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button and then jam that notification bell. Take your sledgehammer at home and smash it real good so that you don't miss anything that we put up on this channel. This channel is now your new favorite channel for professional wrestling and everything else that we do here on Sledgehammer TV. If you missed Monday Night Raw, once again, it will be in the annotations up above. Make sure you're subscribed and notified so you don't miss our coverage of the Royal Rumble and everything coming throughout WrestleMania season. Thank you all so very much. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boo.